Hello everyone, and welcome to another News Coolum video, and merry 4th day of Boltmas. I don't know what I got myself into doing this series, but yeah, only a third of the way through, and maybe getting in just under the wire. So setting the stage for this one, it's 2018, it's the 4th of July weekend, so still no Electrify America in California at all, months away, right? EVgo at this point in time, and I kind of forgot about this, but they had done this as another incremental change. They updated their 30-minute sessions, default sessions, to 45-minute default sessions. So that's what I was kind of dealing with at this point. And then I was leaving from home, and one of the things that I wanted to kind of point out in this video, as you see, is 2018 was the year that I started to see an uptick in the usage of chargers that were away from major cities. I'm about to head out on my 500-mile trip. As you might be able to tell, this is a little bit different in terms of starting point. So this is the 4th of July weekend, and I decided to not leave directly from work, so I ended up driving home again. So that had a little bit of an impact on the amount of energy I used. I've already driven, as you can see, just under 25 miles, but it was relatively efficient, so I only used about 4 kilowatt hours of energy. The thing is, I want to maintain my typical first stop, which is in Selma along Highway 99. I want to make as fast of a trip time as I possibly can. I'm already about an hour later than I wanted to be leaving out, but we'll play it by ear, and if I have to stop in Delano along the way, I will. 0 out. This introduction, right? I'm leaving from my apartment, and then again, I do not have charging at home. So I had already driven back home from work. So I had already used a few kilowatt hours out of my battery pack. So my normal stop in Selma, I was not going to be able to make it on a full battery. You also see that I was leaving at 5:40, I think it was on the clock. So I was leaving, I think, before 6 a.m. or I probably got out right around 6 a.m. But there was no way for me to make a full 200 miles, given that I had already used several kilowatt hours, even though that was very efficient driving. All right, well, we've arrived in Delano, so actually just like 2 hours and 10 minutes out. These numbers aren't exact because, remember, I did have about 25 miles on there, so it's actually 145 miles. There are people around, so hopefully some of these businesses are open. I do actually have to use the bathroom. The charge rate dropped. It's down to the 23 kilowatt, 24 kilowatt rate. But I got the windows cleaned, or at least I tried to anyway. But I think we're not even done with the 45-minute session yet. So we're clearly not, unless this is considered off-peak and it went past. No, it's at 45 minutes now. So, well, and then it stopped. Perfect timing. All right, well, I'm gonna get this out of here. And we added 31.82 kilowatt hours in 45 minutes and 9 seconds. So I ended up going to Delano. So this is a familiar charging stop, the EVgo in Delano. Again, it was early, 7 a.m. on 4th of July. Nothing open. Couldn't really use the bathroom, but I tried to keep busy just cleaning the windows, doing stuff like that, and just doing my regular charging routine with the expectation that I would go to Selma, and then hopefully something would be open. This was, again, one of those issues where spacing really mattered, and I had gotten into a cadence and a routine where I was sort of able to adjust where I stopped based on the spacing of these chargers. So again, maybe that's a theme for this video moving forward, is kind of the spacing. We're here at Selma. This is actually the first time I've had two vehicles here at the same time, but one of them is an Ioniq. I'm gonna go check the chargers right now. But the thing is, with like the Ioniqs, the Leaf could be here for who knows how long. But the thing is, with the Ioniq, they rarely need more than a 25 to 30 minute charge session. Unless they're charging way too long. So I'm just going to check the times on the chargers. I could move on to another charger. I have plenty of range. I might actually be able to make it to Applegate Plaza from here, but I'm not sure that I care to try. All right, and then here is worst case scenario, right? I arrive at Selma and the two DC fast chargers are occupied. So one of them was a Leaf and one of them was the original Hyundai Ioniq. Now, I was kind of expecting the Hyundai Ioniq to leave first, but as I recall, just stepping out, I noticed that the Leaf driver was there and she was leaving. So I said, okay, perfect. And this is really one of the first times I had to start, like I said, dealing with chargers that were full. I dealt with that in the city in Los Angeles, but not out in the open, right? I found that once you got away from cities, you tended to see fewer and fewer EVs plugged into the public charging. So this was one of my first experiences on a road trip where both stalls were occupied. And like I said, 2018 is the year where I started to rely less and less on single charger sites because they were becoming unreliable because people would be using them, and started focusing more on the two stall charging sites. But even that started to shift toward late 2018, early into 2019, where even the two stall charging sites became just less available, right? Just more likely to be filled with EVs that were traveling. Right, so we're at 34, so I might only need to spend about 20 minutes here. The Ioniq drivers are here. I'm actually surprised they're still here, but I think they just got here when I did. I'm actually going to keep this a relatively short charge session, only because I don't think I need it. If I'm up to 65%, I'm pretty much going to cut the charge short. I think I only need about 120 miles at this point, so pretty much just letting it do its thing. So I'm at 56, so I'm past the cutoff, so I'm free to run the air conditioner and I'll go in and check, but yeah, I think maybe another 5 to 10 minutes at most and I'll be out of here. All right, so we just hit the cutoff. I'm gonna go ahead and end the charge now. Stayed a little bit later, I think, than I wanted to, but yeah, so just under 30 minutes and 19.84 kilowatt hours, or I guess 19.91. It's still going. I'll just end it now. I should have enough at this point to make it to Modesto with room to spare, and I think I'm going to go to the Salida stop. There's food there as well, and that's probably where I'll get lunch. I should be there before noon. And of course, in Selma, everything was closed too. Again, this is 4th of July weekend. Luckily for me, though, there was also a construction site there, and they were doing contract work or whatever, but they actually had like porta potties out, so I was able to use the bathroom, come back. The Ioniq, I don't even recall quite when it left, but it left sometime between the time I got back to the car and when I ended the charge after about 30 minutes. And this is also where you see me start to develop this pattern, right? Like I said, EVgo now has these default 45-minute sessions, but even at this point, even in 2018, I had started to develop the pattern of really only staying until the battery taper had completed, that first battery taper had completed, and really only staying long enough to reach my next charging stop with a reasonable buffer. All right, so we're just over 6 hours into the trip at this point. Again, it's only really 325 miles that we've traveled, but we're here in Salida, and luckily the single charger here is not taken. But also, like I said, just looking at the mall on the way by, and this is going to be sunny. New holster. Woohoo! Looking at the mall on the way by, it was very crowded over there. So even if the chargers weren't taken, it's not ideal for getting in and out of. Didn't check to see if that head was broken. And unfortunately, it's so bright, can't really see anything. Yep, down to 13%. So I'm actually going to go see if one of these restaurants is open. Though it looks like what I feared is happening, that nothing is open on Independence Day. The good thing about having 6 restaurants all within walking distance is, one of them had to be open. But spent a little bit more time than I needed to. I'm up to 61% battery. I think this is way more than what I need. We're only going about 100 miles to get to Sacramento International Airport. So I'm going to go ahead and, actually I might turn on the AC for a second and then get ready to go. Yep, that's the AC running. So let's see, we're up to 65%. It's probably about to toggle down. Actually, we're up to a 44-minute session anyway, so 44 minutes when we've added 32.03 kilowatt hours. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop. And be careful, these handles in the sun are very, very hot. Whew. Which is why I think this one gets broken half the time. This isn't really the best setup either, so one thing EVgo can do would be to fix that. But I will say, you see all of these other spots here, they could all easily be DC fast chargers, and actually you could even install another one here. So I think EVgo has some opportunities. I really like this stop. Like I said, 6 restaurants within stopping distance, hotel, gas station with quick amenities, car wash, not that you can charge while you're using it, crepe myrtle tree. It's a good stop. All right. Now this site is again an EVgo. It's in Salida, and this is the one that you're probably familiar with from previous Boltmas videos. The single charger EVgo site just off the freeway. I mentioned in the clip that I avoided the 2-stall EVgo chargers at the mall because I guess the mall was open on 4th of July. It was just too busy for me to want to stop there and use it. So I gambled on this single charger site in Salida being open. And then also, as I've mentioned, it's right next to a food court. So I figured at least one of those businesses needed to be open. So coming through around lunchtime, it made sense. And I was lucky enough that one of them was in fact open. And again, this, even with the Bolt EV, what ends up happening when you make a lunch stop, I wasn't rushing, but I wasn't dawdling either. By the time I got back to the car, it had been charging for 40 minutes. I turned the AC on, let the AC blast for a little while, and then the session ended. So that 45-minute session was just sort of organic, and it was just a natural stop because, like I said, just getting a meal is often enough, about the same amount of time that you would end up charging. All right, so just over 8 hours into the trip, like 8 hours, I think, and 10 minutes into the trip. We've gone just a little over 400 miles, and Now here at Sac International Airport. Now the thing is, I'm going to use my app. It's windy. All right, so we're past the taper, and I think we have enough to get back. It's only about 90 to 100 miles from here. There is an elevation increase, but we do have a tailwind, and the conditions aren't so bad. So I'm going to go ahead and head out. We'll probably stayed longer than we needed to. Now this next stop is new, right? I haven't shown this on the Boltmas videos yet, but this is Sac International Airport. This is a Greenlots single EFACEC, EFACEC 50 kilowatt charger, so a true 125 amp 50 kilowatt charger, and it was installed by the SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utilities District, right? Decent pricing on this one. The reliability started to fade after a while, and it was kind of, like I said, my first real experience with an EFACEC charger. But you'll notice that this is that evolution and spacing that I was talking about, and where when I stopped in the Modesto area before and then stopped in Galt, well, you know, that's hardly any time at all that I need to charge in Modesto to get to Galt, but then Galt leaves me with this extra long leg that I have to charge even farther up into the battery, and that takes additional time. So stopping here at the Sacramento International Airport is a great stop for me, because even if I pull in dead, like battery 0%, a 30-minute stop is usually enough to be able to get me home from there. So it makes it a much more convenient travel experience. Now, the big problem with this site, this SMUD site, this Greenlots site at the Sac International Airport, is that I believe it's technically long-term parking that it's next to, but also, like, I think there is a pickup lot there as well. But there's no services, right? You're just, they occasionally have porta potties out there, but even then, not always. You're basically on this weird side of the airport with no services. It's really just parking, and then you can, leave and go pick up whoever you want to pick up after they've come in. And Sac International Airport since has added a fairly large Electrify America charging site over next to the Arco AM/PM. Great site, just off the freeway, but also you have those on-site services to support. So it almost didn't even matter that Greenlots charger started to get worse and worse in terms of reliability over the years. I started to, basically, I don't think I've used it since Electrify America's new chargers went in. Kitties, get out the way. Why are you climbing in trees? I will drive slow. We made it. I think 10 hours and 30 minutes, even though we were detoured due to a fire. Time to charge at home. Now, I did have a little bit of fun heading into home. I ended up getting redirected based on a wildfire. Took a back road through, got to see a bobcat and her little brood of kittens, and then of course just had some fun going up into the mountains, went fishing. It's just a 4th of July weekend with the little doggy boy too. Had to babysit him, and then just kind of enjoying the weekend. But again, I have charging at the property, so no problem. I'm leaving on a full charge. Now, I think this is part of why I might not have published this video before, but I seem to have lost the footage from where I was leaving in the morning and heading down. But my plan was to go to ChargePoint headquarters and test out their new prototype CPE 250 that they had put up on display. Now, I'm going to give an audience warning here because this section of the video is a slog. I didn't even like editing it. It was just one disappointment after another, and this was sort of that phase mid 2018 when I had been kind of cooling on ChargePoint because their CPE 250 was supposed to have been out, 6 months before this, and here it is still at their headquarters, still being tested and still not really working. All right, so we made it. It's a little bit warm, about 190 miles, but here's the problem. It's currently reading that the charger is unavailable. So I'm gonna get out and try it anyway. I mean, if the Model 3 can charge, why can't I? So I might need to call to see if they can activate it, but that's going to be sort of unfortunate because I did come here to review the charger. It's not going to review very well if I can't actually use it. It's a little bit tight. You'd normally want a slightly longer cord than this. Let's see. This works. That's unfortunate. After spending nearly an hour trying to get this station to work, I wasn't able to, so I'm going to go ahead and plug into the other 50 kilowatt. I only need enough to really get me to Salinas, so we'll go ahead and do that. And I'll do a review of the station anyway. These charge cords do need to be longer though. It's barely long enough. There we go. And we should be charging at a 40 plus kilowatts, so I don't need to stay inside and use the AC, so that should actually get things going pretty well. Well, that's unfortunate. ChargePoint's just striking out here. Apparently there's some sort of a fault, so I turned my car on just to check. I was over doing my review of the new express station, but right now what I have is some sort of a fault, charger error 61, so I don't know what's going on with that, but I'm gonna pull it and so I'm not sure exactly why this is going, but it had some sort of an error. If I can't get this restarted, I'm not actually that worried because I can probably make it to Salinas right now. Okay, so it started again and then had a fault error. So let's see. I'm going to see if I can pull in differently, get a different, tighter connection. Maybe that's the issue. All right, one more time. I'm serious now. So this is there's no pressure on the plug, which wouldn't normally happen anyway. It's just these have such short plugs. All right, so it's authorizing, and all right, well, maybe. All right, so I'm plugged in. This seems to be an order of operations error. All right, let's see. Now I'm authorizing. Alright, authorized. There should be a sound there for you user interface designers. Alright, I plugged in and it's not asking me to start. It's not recognizing that it's plugged in. Alright, let me see. I want to get farther along and then find out that that the charger's not working. Alright, so I think this station is down now too. Ugh. Third charging stop, the same location. Well, technically fourth, I had to move. So this is one of those standard 24 kilowatts, not really much to write home about, but I just want to see as long as I can get it to start. It says it's waiting for vehicle, so. Alright, well, had no issue getting the vehicle to start now, so yeah, it looks like the tritium station is having issues. You know, this one is working fine, and then this one is still having the issues. Can't even really see the screen. So, oh well, ChargePoint, I like your hardware, but I don't know about your software. The big problem is even the 24 kilowatt, the moment you plug it in, about half of its energy was just going toward battery conditioning. It's making for a much slower trip. So I'm glad I started my day early. You know, I could try to push it at this moment. You know, my average range estimator is about 70, which is probably pretty close, but I have 65 miles to go to Salinas. All right, well, we hit our taper. No, just kidding. The minimum is about a mile more or so than how far we have to go. But the thing is, at this point, we're starting to see holiday traffic pick up. So it's actually going to take us even longer to get there, which is unfortunate. So we got hit both on the charging time and on the traffic time. So I'm going to go ahead and finish. You know, the irony here is if that charger started working right now, I'd still be hitting the Bolt EV's max charge rate with how low the battery still is. So something of a wasted stop, but you know, it is what it is when you're trying to provide reviews of stations for millions and millions. So if you stuck through that previous segment, you know the ChargePoint, that was just a debacle, right? It was just terrible, terrible, terrible. And one of the other Boltmas videos I might end up doing is the time I attempted to make my 500-mile trip using only ChargePoint. And yeah, that did not go well at all. But anyway, so from here, I was able to charge up for a little while on the CPE 100, the 24 kilowatt, and then head off to Salinas. So as always, when ChargePoint fails me, I've got EVgo to pick up the slack. Whew. All right, Salinas, here we come. It's a nice day too, so. All right, and we're at 18%. So yeah, we had plenty. Yeah, I'm just kind of like I said, look around. Whew, $4 a gallon. Ugh. Yep. So here we are in Salinas, still charging. Charge session is about to end. We're still sort of at that first taper of about 105 to 110 amps. But here's one thing that I did want to say, because while I don't think that this charging location is ideal for travelers and fast charging times on road trips, it's still usable, right? Like I said, I feel it's more like a destination charger. But this is a supermarket, and one thing that we need to consider moving forward, supermarkets and grocery stores are, in my opinion, one of the ideal locations for 50 to 100 kilowatt DC public fast chargers. And the reason I say that is everybody's, scratching their heads about how do we handle drivers who can't charge at home, right? Well, you start to look to the places where they're going to be regardless. And one of those places is a grocery store. Truthfully, for me, and this is exactly what happened when my charging wasn't available at work, is I would charge at the grocery store when I was shopping. I'm an exception in the amount of miles that I have to drive. So for me, just the grocery store visits weren't sufficient, but I was driving 600 miles a week, 700 miles a week. But for the average person, 1 to 2 grocery stops per week would be enough to add most of their commuting miles. So if they lived in an apartment, or if they lived a condo or someplace where they couldn't charge at home and weren't able to charge at work, I feel like grocery stores are the next best option. So if you want to build out an infrastructure that supports people, EV owners who can't charge at home or work, put DC fast chargers at grocery stores. All right, so perfect timing. And just note the energy versus miles. We have a minimum of 141 miles. We got right past that last taper, so 46 minutes. It was 32.39 kilowatt hours in, 32.39 kilowatt hours in 46 minutes, 15 seconds. Just past that initial taper. 71% should be more than enough. So heading out. Now, this is the Salinas site that I had mentioned in other Boltmas videos. And in fact, this is the one that I should have used on my very first trip north up Highway 101. Like I said, it's a single CCS charger, but there's also, it's 250 kilowatt chargers. One of them was CHAdeMO only. One of them was CCS CHAdeMO. But it was a 50 kilowatt charger at a knob hill. Like, the only real issue that I had with it is how far off the freeway it was. Getting back on the freeway is actually pretty easy if you're going southbound, but still you have to get through the city to get to the charger. So it really is more of a city support site. And this is also where I was kind of first forming my ideas about the emphasis on grocery stores as city support sites, just because those are the locations people in cities use, regardless of whether you live in a house or you live in an apartment that lacks the ability to plug in and charge. By far, grocery stores, in my opinion, make the most sense for locating large banks of chargers. Liv and Patrick, they visited that Rove charging site. I still haven't had a chance to visit it. So on the Mach E vlog, they visited it, and that's what I'm kind of talking about, where they have like a built-in, I believe it's a Gelson's grocery store, and just a massive bank of chargers. That's kind of what you want for a city support center. Because if you can't charge, well, you're going to have to shop for groceries eventually anyway. So it might as well be there. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out about this is I want you to keep in mind how many EVgo failures you've seen me have. And this is something that I don't know that I've ever communicated well, is my confidence level in EVgo, especially mid-2018, was about as high as it got. And so when I would see people go online blasting EVgo, talking about how terrible they were, how unreliable they were, of all of my concerns, that wasn't anywhere close to being on my radar. In my experience, EVgo just worked. Well, it cooled down getting here into San Luis Obispo, but yeah, and again, the efficiency is over 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour. So, uh, again, I'm not going to hurry here. I think two 45-minute sessions would normally be enough to make this trip, but I'm gonna let it go for the full hour more than likely, just so I can have something to eat. All right, I don't know why that was. This doesn't seem to be the most responsive right now. Of course, can't be a day without some sort of an issue. So that's good to know. You can just plug in the CCS plug and it will select CCS as an option, even though it's not the default option. And again, this is actually, I mean, even though it's not ideal for travel, this is another location where they could expand the number of chargers if they wanted to, just because, you know, it is a grocery store right over here and a lot of shopping. You just go in that way. You know, that would support a lot of local drivers who maybe don't have charging at their home, apartment, condo, whatever. Okay, well, it looks like EVgo forced my hand. I was going to do a little bit more, but even though I started after 8 o'clock, it looks like the charge session ended at 45 minutes again. So just under 33. So it's a 32.53 kilowatt hours and 45 minutes and 5 seconds. So just looking at the minimum estimated range, knowing what I know about the weather and the conditions heading back, I think I'm just going to go straight back, and I might or might not top up at the DC fast charger at home just for literally like 5 minutes, just so I have a convenient trip into work tomorrow morning. Again, that was a little inconvenient. It kind of harkens back to the days when you we're only getting 30-minute sessions out of EVgo and not necessarily consistently. So still 45-minute cutoff. I guess maybe they consider holidays and Sundays and Saturdays peak times. Otherwise, their literature says that off-peak it should only be it should be a full 1 hour session. So they cut it off short. I guess we're gonna head out. So two 45-minute charge sessions. Okay, and so another familiar stop on the return. I went from Salinas all the way down to San Luis Obispo. A little bit brighter this time, a little bit more well lit. And again, here I had a little bit of a glitch with the screen as I was plugging in. But I just plugged in, ran my RFID card, EVgo worked. So I am aware of some of these issues, but when it came to actual mission critical reliability, it just wasn't even an issue. And then again, this is summertime and heading down along the coast. As long as there aren't a lot of winds, you're going to be fairly efficient. And this is where I was sort of testing out a hypothesis I had about whether or not I would be able to complete basically this 500-mile trip from Northern California back to Southern California on only two 45-minute charging sessions. We're officially 500 miles in. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. As you can see, I'm a little bit low. I actually could easily make it into work, but I'm just not going to bother. I'm just going to do a quick DC fast charge, probably 5 minutes or so. Get the charge out of orange, That's why I said I would have done 15 minutes longer at Santa Barbara, even though it was a bit slower, uh, just to give me this extra range. But this is just as easy. So, and it's a little bit more economical because I'm paying less per kilowatt hour, and I'm pretty close to local, so it's not like I'm that far from home. So this isn't really that inconvenient. Yeah, and we're down to 12%, so no reason to go lower than that to go into work in the morning. So I'll probably let it charge up to 25-30% at most and then head out. So despite not being able to actually charge at the CPE 250 station, I think overall I'm still glad to have seen it put in place. I can hear the battery conditioning, which, is unfortunate. I don't know how much it actually needs to cool at 75 degrees, but it is cooling, and it's taking a little bit away from the charge rate. But we're still charging over 40 kilowatts right now, and we should be getting pretty close to 25% battery. And really 25% should be more than enough, even with the charger running the battery conditioning. I don't mind. It is a little bit unfortunate that it's conditioning the battery because it's only 75 degrees right now, and it's about to sit overnight for at least 6 to 7 hours before I leave for work in the morning. I don't know if this is something that's adjustable. I've made a comment before that I feel like GM should give users a little bit more control over the battery thermal management. I don't know if this is one of those things that you can control. I do know, though, that the battery conditioning gets a lot more aggressive if the vehicle is on, which is why I've suggested before that it's better to turn the vehicle off when charging, because it seems like it has different standards for when it runs the battery conditioning. With DC fast chargers, you prolong it as much as possible because once you hit that taper point, if there's excess capacity in the charger, then you're maintaining the same rate out of the charger, but you're also able to condition the battery and you're charging at the same rate. I'll get ready to close out the charge and head in. I think the camera shut off, so just to verify, I believe in about a 13-minute session, we got about 9.5 kilowatt hours of energy from the charger, and we're up to about 27% battery. So. All right, so yeah, I arrived back in Ventura, no problem. Made it with relative ease. I was down to orange, right, in terms of my battery level, but realistically, I was going to have to plug in anyway for just a little while because, again, I didn't have charging at home. So I wanted to plug in, make sure I had a reasonable amount of energy in my battery so that I could make it into work without any issues the next day. And I kind of did prove my hypothesis here because in decent weather with 50 kilowatt, true 50 kilowatt chargers, I was able to make it from Northern California to Southern California. Yes, I did charge up a little bit at ChargePoint headquarters, and maybe I didn't communicate this well, but ChargePoint headquarters is in Campbell. It's a little bit out of the way. So basically what I added on that 24 kilowatt charger at ChargePoint headquarters was more or less the amount of energy that I used getting over there, right? So I could have pretty easily made it all the way to Salinas, no problem. And again, these are 50 kilowatt chargers, so they're not maxing out the Bolt EV. And I don't know that I ever had a chance to truly test this out because, like I said, it still does have to be decent weather. We know that the prevailing winds a lot of times are coming out of the north. And there's a net elevation decrease for me coming from the north heading south. But realistically, with faster than 50 kilowatt chargers and just that reasonable efficiency that you can expect from the Bolt EV in decent weather, I could make this 500-mile trip with just two 35-minute charging stops on a faster than 50 kilowatt charger. And again, this is why I kind of push back on people who say that the Bolt EV isn't capable of road tripping. When it comes to the amount of time that you stop and charge, you're actually traveling a very long distance with, you know, very short charging sessions off the road. Like I said, especially in reasonable or decent weather. One other thing to note about that Salinas location, you know, there's been a nearby charger that was added with Recargo and then taken over by EVgo with a bank of 650 to 200 kilowatt chargers, which are, again, max out the Bolt EV, great stop just off the freeway. So one of these days when I need to head back to Ventura or head back to Camarillo or something like that, I can just test it out. I can probably leave on a full battery and, you know, make it to Southern California 500 miles away with just two 30 to 35 minute charging stops. So maybe one day I'll have to test that out again. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. This was another bit of a long one. Maybe I'll try to find a shorter Boltmas video that I can upload that has some interesting things to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you think, and have a happy, merry holidays and 4th day of Boltmas, and thank you for watching.